is Janeese Brownlow, and I'm assistant professor of neuropsychology at Delaware State, and I am also the director of the Sleep, Stress, and Behavioral Neuroscience program. And I thought I would spend a couple minutes talking a little bit about my MRDA experience, and then I'll talk a little bit about my pilot grant. And so first I will say the Excel program and its leadership has been very supportive in my research endeavors. I was awarded an MRDA in spring of 2019, and the MRDA was an ideal mechanism that provided release time for me to focus on getting my lab up and running, as well as protected time for me to prepare for a grant application. And so since the MRDA, I have been awarded a similar grant from New York University through NHLBI for early career investigators whose research focuses on sleep health disparities. And over the summer, I spent 2 weeks at NYU in intensive grant writing workshops, and this grant will continue until the summer of next year. I also was recently awarded pilot funding through Dell State Center for Neuroscience, the Kobe grant, and that pilot will be starting soon. And finally, I am on task to submit a R grant through NIH in spring of 2020. And so I thought I would spend a little time talking about my pilot grant because I am new to the Delaware area, and so I thought this will be an opportunity to share a little bit of the research that I will be starting, as well as reach out to the community, to the Excel community, in terms of any suggestions or ideas in terms of recruitment. But before I do that, one thing I'll say for the new MRDA awardees, I say congratulations to you all. And I would say please take advantage of all the resources and the opportunities that are offered to you through the Excel program. They have been very helpful with several things concerning me, concerning my research, and they always say, is there anything that they can do to help, to let them know? And so they always say that, and they mean that. So I would say take full advantage of that. Just to talk a little bit about my research. I'm waiting on the next slide to load, but it may take a minute, but I'll just go on and talk about it. And so my study is focused on understanding psychological stress and socio-environmental determinants of sleep and cognitive functioning. And so I will be recruiting for my pilot study once I have received IRB funding, once I have received IRB approval. But again, I wanted to share a little bit about my study in case anyone can offer suggestions in terms of recruitment at your institutions or your organizational sites. And so there's ample data to suggest that stress as well as one's environment can have adverse effects on health outcomes. However, there's limited data in regard to how stress and the environment impacts sleep health and everyday functioning. And we know that sleep disturbances have been implicated in several chronic conditions. And so the purpose of my pilot study is to understand the role of psychological stress and social environmental factors, so one's built environment on sleep and cognition. And so in terms of recruitment, I will be recruiting individuals in the community between the ages, so males and females, community between the ages of 18 and 60. I will be recruiting from the Newcastle and Kent County, Newcastle and Kent counties. So I will be recruiting from those two counties, and I'm looking for just people within the community. In terms of the study timeline, there'll be three visits so there'll be 3 visits for the study. So the first visit will include participants filling out a series of questionnaires focused on sleep and sleep disturbance, questionnaires focused on psychological stress, as well as questionnaires focused on neighborhood characteristics. So for example, a question may ask, how often do they hear police sirens in their neighborhood? Or do they have access to recreational resources in their neighborhood? So things looking at one's built environment. They'll also complete a clinical interview focused on assessing for psychological disorders as well as potentially ruling out for sleep disorders. And then they'll be given information in regard to their to sleep monitoring. So they'll do sleep. Their sleep will be monitored for a week at home. So they'll take the sleep devices home, and so they will wear these devices for a week. So we'll get a pattern of their sleep habits. And so this is an objective measure of sleep known as actigraphy, and it measures a person's movement, and we're able to get sleep continuity measures through this device. And so they'll do that for a week at home in addition to completing daily sleep diaries. Then they'll come back to the lab for the second visit where they'll go on to complete a computerized neurocognitive battery. I'll do a debriefing, and then they'll be compensated for their time and participation. And so that's pretty much the gist of the study. And so if anyone has ideas or potential places in the community for recruitment, please let me know. Also, as I have done in the past, I am willing to go to these various sites in the community and provide talks and presentations on sleep and mental health, as well as sleep health and sleep hygiene. So I have done that in the past as a way to sort of recruit. I've gone and provided some type of service within the community. And so if you all know any places or sites where I would be able to do that, that would be really good if you all could share that. And so once I have obtained IRB approval, I'm more than happy to send you guys flyers as well as brochures as it relates to my study. And so that's it for me. The slide never came up, but I am open to answer any questions.